I've shown you everything you asked for. My badge, my ID, even my work app. I'm supposed to clock in soon, please. I don't understand why I'm still sitting
Bro,
here.
we're verifying your information. Please remain seated while we confirm details.
I'm just scared. I've never been stopped like this. What did I do wrong?
You match the general description.
They made her sit on the hot concrete shoulder of Sunrise Boulevard while cars rushed past, horns blaring, people staring, and not one of the ICE agents had even looked at her ID. Her blue scrubs were still crisp from the dryer. Her hospital badge hung clearly on her chest. She kept holding her driver's license in her hand, stretching it toward them, but they would not take it. She was not shouting. She was not resisting. She was simply trying to get to work. Yet there she was, treated like a criminal in broad daylight. Before we go any further, tell me where you're watching from. Drop your city or country in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do it now. Stories like this matter. They need to be heard. Now let's continue. Her name was Naomi Price. She was 26 years old, a registered nurse at Broward Health Medical Center in Fort Lauderdale. She had been on the pediatric floor for 3 years. That Wednesday morning started like every other shift day. Alarm at 5:15 a.m., quick shower. Hair tied back tight. Coffee in a travel mug. Scrubs ironed the night before. Badge clipped on straight. By 6:40 a.m., she was driving her silver Honda Civic down Sunrise Boulevard, 10 minutes away from the hospital. The sky was pale orange. Traffic was light. She was thinking about her patients. One child had surgery the day before. Another was scared of needles. She planned to bring extra stickers from her locker. Then she noticed the black SUV behind her. It stayed close, too close. She changed lanes. It changed lanes. Her stomach tightened. Then the blue lights flashed. Naomi checked her speed. Exactly 35 in a 35 zone. She had used her signal. She had not run any light. Her inspection sticker was current. Her registration was valid. She pulled over calmly. Two men stepped out, not city police. Tactical vests, large bold letters, ICE. Her chest tightened harder. Why would immigration and customs enforcement stop her? One of them walked straight to her window. Tall, hard jaw, dark sunglasses even though the sun was barely up. His name, she would later learn, was Agent Victor Hale. Step out of the vehicle, he said. No greeting, no explanation. Sir, may I ask what this is about? Naomi asked softly. Step out now. She stepped out. The second agent, Agent Connor Blake, stood near the back of her car, hand resting near his belt. Sit down, Hale said. On the ground? Yes. Cars were slowing now. People were watching. She looked at her scrubs. Light blue, clean, fresh. Her badge clearly read Naomi Price, RN. She slowly lowered herself to the concrete shoulder. Sir, I'm a nurse. I'm on my way to work. Stay seated, Hale said. She held out her license. Here's my ID. He did not take it. Instead, he stepped back and spoke into his radio. Minutes passed. Naomi's heart pounded so loud she could hear it in her ears. Sir, I've shown you everything you asked for. My badge, my ID, even my hospital app. I'm supposed to clock in at 7 o'clock. Please, I don't understand why I'm still sitting here. You need to relax and stop raising your voice. We're verifying your details. Until then, stay seated. I'm not raising my voice. I'm scared. I've never been pulled over like this. What exactly did I do wrong? You were flagged. That's enough reason for us to check things further. Flagged for what? I wasn't speeding. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was literally driving to work. She fits the description, Blake muttered. Naomi's face tightened. What description? I'm wearing scrubs. How do I possibly fit any description? You're interrupting, Hale snapped. Every time we speak, you cut in. That isn't helping your situation. I'm interrupting because you're not explaining anything. You barely even look at me. You just say, do as you're told. She swallowed hard. I'm sitting here doing everything you said. Why can't I call my supervisor? They can confirm everything in seconds. No calls until we finish. We don't need anyone else involved. Her hands began to tremble. Cars continued to pass. Some people rolled down their windows. One woman shouted, "Let her go." Hale ignored it. 10 minutes. 15 minutes. 20. Naomi was still on the ground. Her ID was still in her hand. They had not checked it. Not once. Finally, Hale walked closer. Where were you born? Florida. Parents? Florida. Grandparents? Georgia. He studied her face like he was looking for something wrong. I can show you my birth certificate on my phone. Stay seated. She blinked fast, fighting tears. A pickup truck slowed ahead and pulled onto the shoulder. A middle-aged white man stepped out, pretending to stretch his legs. He glanced toward the scene casually. His name was Ethan Cole. He held his phone low, recording. Naomi did not know this yet, but that small red recording light would change everything. Hale paced. Blake whispered something to him. Naomi caught only 2 words. Dark female. Her stomach dropped. 27 minutes had now passed. Her shift had already started. Children were waiting for medication. Sir, she tried again, voice cracking, please just run my ID. It's right here. Hale finally took it. He walked back to the SUV. 3 minutes. That's all it took. 3 minutes for their system to confirm what Naomi had been saying the whole time. U.S. citizen. No warrants. No criminal record. No immigration issue. Nothing. Hale returned. He handed her license back without looking at her. You're free to go. No apology. No explanation. Just that. Naomi stood slowly. Her knees hurt. Her scrubs were dirty now. Her hands shook so badly she dropped her keys. She picked them up and got into her car. Her reflection in the rearview mirror looked like someone else. She drove away, tears blurring the road. Behind her, Ethan Cole stopped recording. He stared at the ICE vehicle. He knew what he had just witnessed was wrong, and he had it all on video. Naomi barely made it into the parking lot of Broward Health Medical Center before the tears came hard. She gripped the steering wheel and tried to breathe, but her chest felt tight. 34 minutes on the side of the road. 34 minutes treated like she did not belong in her own country. 34 minutes and not even one apology. She was 40 minutes late for her shift. Inside the hospital, everything was normal. Nurses walking fast. Doctors reviewing charts. Parents holding worried children. The world had not stopped for her humiliation. Her charge nurse, Alicia Grant, rushed toward her. Naomi, are you okay? We were worried. Naomi tried to speak, but her voice cracked. ICE stopped me. What? Why? They said I was flagged. They made me sit on the ground. They didn't even check my ID for half an hour. Alicia's face hardened. That makes no sense. It didn't make sense to me either. Naomi worked through her shift, but she was not herself. Every time a phone rang, she jumped. Every time she looked out the hospital window and saw traffic below, her stomach tightened. That evening, she got a message from an unknown number. My name is Ethan Cole. I saw what happened this morning. I recorded it. I think you need this. Her hands froze over her phone. They recorded it. She replied immediately. Within an hour, they met at a small coffee shop near the hospital. Ethan was calm, direct. He slid his phone across the table. I pretended to support them so they wouldn't stop me, he said quietly. But I knew it was wrong. Naomi pressed play. There she was, sitting on the concrete, her badge clear, her voice shaking but respectful. She heard Agent Victor Hale say, she fits the description. She heard herself ask, what description? She heard the silence that followed. She watched the timestamp. 31 minutes before they even touched her ID. Her throat tightened. Seeing it from outside made it worse. They never explained anything, she whispered. Ethan shook his head. That wasn't a stop. That was profiling. Naomi's hands trembled. If you didn't record that, it would just be my word. And we both know how that usually goes. She heard Agent Victor Hale say, she fits the description. She heard herself ask, what description? She heard the silence that followed. She watched the timestamp. 31 minutes before they even touched her ID. Her throat tightened. Seeing it from outside made it worse. They never explained anything, she whispered. Ethan shook his head. That wasn't a stop. That was profiling. Naomi's hands trembled. If you didn't record that, it would just be my word. And we both know how that usually goes. ICE released a statement saying the stop was part of a targeted operation. They claimed Naomi matched a description tied to an investigation. But when reporters pressed for details, the description was revealed. Dark-skinned female driving a sedan. That was it. No plate number, no clothing detail, no distinguishing features. Just that. That description could match thousands of women in Fort Lauderdale alone. A week later, Naomi was called in for a formal interview with ICE's Internal Affairs Department. She sat across from Agent Hale for the first time since the stop. A supervisor was in the room. The air felt heavy. Hale avoided her eyes. Naomi spoke first. Why didn't you check my ID when I handed it to you? We were verifying information, Hale replied stiffly. You had the information in my hand. You matched a profile. What profile? She pressed. Be specific. He shifted in his seat. It was part of an ongoing investigation. That doesn't answer my question, Naomi said firmly. What about me matched a suspect? My scrubs? My hospital badge? The supervisor cleared his throat. Miss Price, the agents acted based on available intelligence. Naomi leaned forward. Available intelligence doesn't mean ignore my ID. Available intelligence doesn't mean make me sit on concrete while cars pass. You treated me like I wasn't human. Hale's jaw tightened. You were being uncooperative. I was scared, she shot back. And I asked questions. That's not uncooperative. Silence filled the room. Then she delivered the line that changed the tone completely. If Ethan Cole had not recorded that stop, would you even be investigating this? No one answered, because they all knew the truth. Without the video, it would have been written up as routine. Case closed. But now it was national news. Civil rights groups stepped in. Community leaders demanded answers. Protests formed outside the local ICE office. Naomi began receiving messages from strangers across the country. Some thanked her for standing up. Some shared their own stories. Others admitted they had been too afraid to speak before. The pressure mounted. Internal review findings were leaked to the press. The report concluded that Agent Victor Hale failed to follow protocol by refusing to verify identification promptly. It also noted that the initial description used to justify the stop lacked specific details and risked discriminatory enforcement. That was careful language, but it meant one thing. They were wrong. The lawsuit moved forward. Depositions were scheduled. And behind closed doors, ICE officials began discussing consequences. Naomi tried to continue her life normally, but things had changed. Every drive to work made her anxious. Every black SUV in her mirror made her heart race. But she refused to back down, because this was no longer just about her. It was about what happens when power goes unchecked. It was about what happens when a vague description becomes an excuse. It was about what happens when a citizen's ID is ignored simply because of how she looks. And then the breaking news alert came. Agent Victor Hale had been placed on administrative leave pending termination. The story was far from over. The morning Agent Victor Hale was officially terminated, Naomi was driving to work again. Her hands were steady this time. The sun rose over Fort Lauderdale just like it had the day she was stopped. Traffic moved normally. People hurried to their jobs, but something felt different. Her phone buzzed at a red light. It was a message from her attorney. It's done. He's been fired. Naomi read it twice to make sure. 15 years with Immigration and Customs Enforcement ended with a short internal memo. Failure to follow detention protocol. Improper verification procedures. Conduct unbecoming of a federal officer. It sounded formal. Clean. But Naomi knew what it really meant. He abused his power. Agent Connor Blake, the second officer on scene, was suspended for 90 days without pay. He was ordered to complete mandatory retraining on civil rights enforcement and detention standards. The third agent involved received a written reprimand and permanent mark in his record. The agency released a public statement saying they were committed to constitutional policing. The words felt careful, polished. But they did not erase what happened on that roadside. Naomi parked at Broward Health Medical Center and sat in her car for a moment. She thought about the first time she drove back after the stop, how her hands shook, how every flashing light in the distance made her chest tighten. Now she felt something else, relief, but not joy, because accountability did not erase memory. The lawsuit settlement came 3 months later. ICE agreed to pay Naomi a significant six-figure amount. They also issued a written acknowledgment stating her detention had no lawful basis once identification was offered and ignored. That line mattered most to her. No lawful basis. It meant she was not crazy. It meant she had not imagined the injustice. It meant the system admitted fault. Still, the impact of that morning followed her. One evening, weeks after the firing, Naomi received a request to speak at a community forum on civil rights. She hesitated at first. She was a nurse. She did not want to be a public figure. But then she remembered sitting on the concrete while strangers stared. She agreed. The event was held at a local community center. The room was packed. Cameras lined the back wall. Naomi stepped to the microphone. Her voice was calm. I was driving to work, she began. I was wearing scrubs. I had my ID in my hand, and they refused to look at it. The room was silent. They said I fit a description. The description was dark female driving a sedan. That is not a description. That is a category. Some people nodded. Some wiped tears. I was not arrested. I was not charged, but I was detained, and humiliation stays with you. After she finished, questions began. A man in the crowd stood up. What would have happened if no one recorded it? Naomi did not hesitate. I would have filed a complaint. It would have been denied, and you would never have heard my name. The truth felt heavy in the air, because everyone knew it was possible. After the forum, Ethan Cole approached her again. He had stayed quiet through most of the media storm. He did not want attention, but that night he spoke. I almost kept driving, he admitted. Naomi looked at him. But you didn't. I've seen enough in this world to know when something isn't right, he said. You were sitting there like a threat. You weren't one. She gave him a small smile. You changed everything. He shook his head. No, the camera changed everything. I just pressed record. That simple action had forced a federal agency to respond. It had protected Naomi from being dismissed. It had shown the country what unchecked authority looks like. Months later, ICE implemented new field requirements. All roadside stops now required immediate ID verification unless there was an immediate safety threat. Body cameras became mandatory during operations. Supervisors were required to review random stop footage monthly. Policy shifts do not happen easily. They happen when evidence is undeniable. Naomi continued her work in pediatrics. She still brought stickers for nervous children. She still stayed late when families needed comfort. Her patients did not know about the lawsuit. They only knew she was kind and steady. But something inside her had changed. She no longer assumed authority meant fairness. She understood how quickly power could be misused. And she understood how important witnesses are. On the anniversary of the stop, she drove the same route intentionally. Sunrise Boulevard. Same stretch of road. Same shoulder. She pulled over briefly, not because she was forced to, but because she chose to. She stepped out of her car. The concrete looked smaller than she remembered. Traffic rushed by like always. She stood there for a quiet moment. Then she got back in and drove away. Forward. The story of Naomi Price did not end with a perfect system. ICE still exists. Mistakes still happen. Bias does not disappear overnight. But in her case, power faced consequence. A federal agent lost his badge. Policies were tightened. A record was corrected. And millions of people saw what happened when a nurse in blue scrubs was treated like she did not belong in her own country. The most important part was simple. They tried to ignore her ID. They tried to ignore her voice. They could not ignore the camera. Justice is not automatic. It requires proof. It requires courage. It requires someone willing to stand still and say, "This is wrong." Naomi never wanted to be a symbol. She only wanted to get to work on time. But her refusal to stay silent made sure that the next person stopped on that road might be treated differently. And sometimes that is how change begins.